Praise the Lord. I remember back in 1982, I believe it was, Al Smith came to Bob Jones University. That was one of the greatest sacred concerts I had ever been in attendance to, or any concert that I've been there. I saw my first symphony orchestra at Bob Jones University, and I was in the Messiah a couple of different times. Heard some great orchestra from the college university, the university's orchestra. There was so many great. But the greatest was the Al Smith concert. Albert Smith came to Bob Jones in 1982. And praise the Lord, I just requested a CD from that performance from the college, the university, and I'm going to be getting it within the next couple of weeks, I hope. And this is one of the greatest songs that I remember Al Smith singing and telling the story to. I'm going to sing it first, then I'll read the story, and maybe I'll sing it again. The love of God is greater far than tongue or pen can ever tell. It goes beyond the highest star and reaches to the lowest hell. The guilty pair bowed down with care. God gave his Son to win. His erring child he reconciled and pardoned from his sin. Oh, love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure the saints' and angels' song. When years of time shall pass away, and earthly thrones and kingdoms fall, when men who hear refuse to pray, on rocks and hills and mountains call, God's love so pure shall still endure, all measureless and strong, redeeming grace to Adam's race, the saints' and angels' song. Could we with ink the ocean fill, and were the skies of parchment made, were every stalk on earth a quill, and every man a scribe by trade, to write the love of God above would drain the oceans dry, nor could the scroll contain the whole, though stretched from sky to sky. Oh, love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure, the saints' and angels' song. F.M. Lehman lived in California and worked in a Pasadena packing house. Through business reverses, he had lost everything and was now spending his time in hard manual labor, lifting and moving as much as 30 tons of lemons and oranges a day, which then were packed into crates for shipping. From all outward appearances, this certainly would not be a place conducive to doing anything artistic, and especially writing songs. But, as is so often said, the exception proves the rule, and the love of God is one of the exceptions. Mr. Lehman was a Christian who rejoiced in his salvation. Therefore, it's no wonder that on Sunday evening, after hearing a heartwarming sermon on God's love, he could hardly contain himself. In fact, so much so that he found it hard to go to sleep. The next morning, as he was having his breakfast, the thrill of the previous evening had not left him, and on his way to work he began to compose a song with God's love as the theme. In those days, the oranges and lemons were packed in crates made of the thin wooden slats with solid wood ends. Oftentimes, pieces of the slats could break off, and I can envision that from time to time Lehman would pick up one of these and jot down his song ideas on them. On through the day, the song expanded, and by the end of the day, I'm sure he had collected quite a few of these important pieces of wood. He could hardly wait to get home to put his new song ideas on paper. On arriving home, he hurriedly went to the old upright piano, and with the help of his day's collection of ideas, he began to transcribe the song on paper. Soon he had a finished melody, with 2 stanzas and a chorus. But in those days, a song had to have at least 3 stanzas to be complete. Someone has said that today a song is complete when it has just 3 words. As he tried to write the 3rd stanza, he found that the words just wouldn't fall into place. What would he do? Some time before, he had heard a poem about the love of God and had been given a copy of it, printed on a card. He reasoned, if I can only find that poem, for it so wonderfully pictured the vastness of God's love, maybe I could get an idea upon which to build this last stanza. His search was rewarded, for he soon found the card, and he had used it as a bookmark. As Lehman read the words, his heart was again thrilled, as it had been when first he had read them. He noticed that at the bottom of the card some smaller but heavier printing gave this story. These words were found written on a cell wall in a prison some 200 years ago. It is not known why the prisoner was incarcerated. Neither is it known if the words were original or if he had heard them somewhere and had decided to put them in a place where he could be remembered of the greatness of God's love. Whatever the circumstances, he wrote them on the wall of his prison cell. In due time, he died, and the men who had the job of repainting his cell were impressed by the words. Before their paintbrushes had obliterated them, one of the men jotted them down, and thus they were preserved. With poem in hand, Lehman went to the piano. On the spur of the moment, he began to voice the words to the melody. They fitted perfectly. It was a miracle. Lehman's song was then published with these words as the last stanza. It is within recent years that I have become acquainted with facts that make the writing of this song an even greater miracle. I have found that the original 3rd stanza was written in Hebrew around the year 1000 by Meir ben Itzhak Nehoriah, a Jewish rabbi. I like to feel that God, knowing that Lehman was going to write a song, also realized that Lehman would have trouble writing a 3rd stanza, and so he chose this rabbi who, though not accepting Christ as the Messiah, did possess the skills to graphically paint a picture of God's words, or God's love in words. He would preserve these words, and then hundreds of years later, he would have them translated by this prisoner into a language that did not as yet exist, namely English. And to think that he did it in the exact meter to fit Lehman's melody. I'll sing you that 3rd stanza again. Let's give credit to who gave the story, Alfred B. Smith. Could we with ink the ocean fill, and were the skies of parchment made, were every stalk on earth a quill, and every man a scribe by trade, to write the love of God above, would drain the oceans dry, nor could that scroll contain the whole though stretched from sky to sky. Oh, love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure, the saints and angels' song.